call the meeting to order at 5:33. All right, and this is a special board retreat with the specific topic of unpacking the community forum with the guidance of our NESDEC, help walk us through where we are, what we found, and what our next steps are going to look like. So now is time for public comment. If anybody has any, now would be the time to make any public comment. Okay.
We don't have two public.
And we do not have two public comments.
We can add one.
We can add one at this time if we feel that that might be necessary.
I would suggest one.
Okay, and is that favorable for everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll put a public comment after the discussion. And then, of course, the opportunity next for full engagement and discussion is going to be August 4th again, so. Okay, great, we'll take it away.
Very good. Hi, everybody, thank you. Dave. Chris Malone. So tonight, goal would be to, I get a very quick kind of PowerPoint to outline all this. I have the first PowerPoint, second PowerPoint, I'll be giving them to Jamie, he'll be able to post both of them, so it's a record of the process more than anything else. So you'll have that in the end. So today is a school board workshop, and I believe the goal is to take a look at the data we collected from both the teachers and the focus groups and the community. And thank you, many of you, I think all of you were at the community one. So you were right in the mix and you got to see and hear firsthand the direction. The documents, we did two different types of documents. First of all, I took all the sheets home, categorized them all, broke them down, took all the comments out, and then reviewed them, looked for common themes. Chris took a look at them, so we broke them down that way. So you have a bulk of that, comment by comment, common themes. What we are gonna do tonight is a little different. So Jamie had said to Chris and I wanted to take a look at the goals for the board, and we did, vision and mission statement. And our goal is, before the end of this process, you'll be able to crunch down a lot of data, a lot of comments, a lot of feelings, a lot of what people were saying, and then be able to come up with maybe 1, 2, or 3 major buckets of where it lands. So that's what we're here to do now. Unpacking what we heard. We were all in those rooms, community was great, teachers were great. So we did the 3 focus groups on May 20th, Rochester-Stockbridge, and the community. Feedback, we broke that down based on each prompt, which I sent to Jamie and he gave you. So you got to see the Stockbridge teachers' responses, what they said, bulleted in, common themes from them. Then you got to see that based on Rochester-Stockbridge and the community. So you have that big bulk of data to look at. So for today, what we were thinking to do is look at just the common themes that emerged. So you got a second document, which I was able to put together. Chris looked at it, we met a couple of times, we talked, Jamie saw it. He's like, all right, this is really kind of the direction to go. You grab the common themes from all 3 groups. And now, the real work tonight, you're gonna get your hands dirty, because I'm gonna ask the board, this is it's not my, I don't know the district as well as you do. I don't know the situation as well as you do. I was able to look at the common themes, and I have, and I've kind of got a highlighted, because every now and then, I put my superintendent hat back on, I go, if this was my process, what would I be doing with this? Chris is the same way, we talk back and forth. Jamie and I have talked several times to try to piece this all together. So today, you each have the document. It looks similar to this one that says common themes, prompt 1, then it says Stockbridge staff, Rochester staff, and then the community common themes.
The back, side is the community, or where's?
Yeah, he did two-sided copies, I believe, so it would be on the
So,
back side.
yeah.
I just don't see the heading, community. I don't know.
Okay, that should be all the community ones. They did, yeah, Jamie was nice enough to
Print
give me.
whatever you can just.
Yeah, two-sided, that's okay. It's all there. Yeah, they're two-sided on yours.
In the single,
Right.
not in the board packet and the other.
It's,
I'm confused.
all right,
Maybe on this one.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have the community, it just has full staff.
Where does it say community?
Oh, that's common theme prompt two, so it's all here on one. This would be,
But there's no community, just the.
I just don't think you put the heading on it, Chris.
Well, and then for
No,
prompts
he's-
2 and 3
I
are
think
missing the
this is your
community too.
community.
that is, but there
Just
should be
doesn't
one
say.
for each.
There's prompt 2.
Yeah,
There's nothing for the community for prompt 2.
it's here, two-sided. All right, what we'll do is let
Let me go grab my
access to a
computer.
print.
Okay.
No, if you take it, that's all right.
It was saying, you just copy, maybe quickly copy.
So this one
This one.
here is community,
Yeah.
but,
Right.
but I think
Then
there's
it's
another one's
missing.
missing.
Yeah.
Right?
Common theme.
Chris, do you have my copy?
Can we plug that fan in?
Yes.
Yes, but we're looking for the other prompts.
I think it's in the big packet, but it's not. I
Chris has it.
think it's.
Can we plug that fan in? There's a little one in the corner.
I was like, where do you see a fan? Sure. Do you see a fan somewhere? Absolutely.
No, we're gonna go two-sided.
That's the clean version, Bob?
I believe so. Okay. I think what happened when we went two-sided, we did two-sided.
Oh, here. There's a chance.
Yeah.
Provide a little bit of airflow, is that okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
All right, no problem.
That's on the lowest, if we.
So when Jamie comes back, the goal of tonight, like I said, is each prompt has Stockbridge, Rochester-Stockbridge community. I'm gonna ask everybody to look at those and begin the process as a group, a collective group. I may ask somebody to just be the scribe at some point, but to discuss, talk about it, and narrow it down. And I would also suggest, while doing this, think about the goals that you have as a board and where some of those fit in. So as you start to unpack this, you may be able to see, well, one of our academic goals, social, it comes up in the common themes. When working with Jamie on this, he said keep those prompts broad, because the goal is to get a lot of intel. So if you look at prompt 1, it's about the focus, the purpose of the district. And then you can start to see the common themes. And as I was looking at it, I'm like, so many fit in here, common themes. Some fit into planning, some fit into the communication aspect of your goals. And I think that's the way to get this done, because you have so much information to read through. All those other pieces that came in with the comments, that helps later on, once you identify the buckets. Once you have that big, you know what, I see it through the purpose, this keeps coming up. Opportunity for students, Stockbridge said that, Rochester said that, the community said that. All right, so this is a big piece, opportunities for students. Then you go to the next set of things, and you say, okay, the future, and you find those common threads, and you pull them together. Because there's no way you can address all the common themes. But there is a way to condense them to really some big bucket items. Because the ultimate process here on the timeline is the board will be struggling with developing kind of the next pieces to this through a survey. And we'll talk about that at the end of this process. The next steps. What else do you need to know based on what you've already heard, based on what you've seen? If building this district of where you're gonna create opportunities for students, lifelong learners, all right? That fits in here, that's how we're gonna get there. And you read through this and you'll see things about alignment, about multi-grade classrooms, single-grade classrooms. And you've read these things. And then all of a sudden, you're dropping into, well, gee, that's future planning. And as you look through this, you're gonna hear and see in those common themes, communication, community engagement, strong community. This is just me, I've been working on this, looking at it. And I looked at, it falls, you've got some buckets here where I think the work of today will fall into. And then the real question then comes, what do you need to know more about? Yes?
Can we ask some questions beforehand?
Absolutely, this is while we're waiting for those copies, go.
No, actually, it's not for you.
Oh, okay, great.
Sure, I can try.
Hey, I'm off, I'll take a drink then.
I was reading through these this afternoon, and I just noticed the fear in some of the staff. So can you tell me how many regular ed teachers you have, how many special ed teachers you have, and how many specialists do you have?
Yep, okay, so classroom teachers in Stockbridge, there is, going around the building here, 4 full-time classroom teachers, pre-K through 6, and someone who is 0.6, so part-time.
Okay, and in Rochester?
And in Rochester, there's 5. 5 full-time teachers.
And no point
There's
anything?
no point anything. Yep.
And then how many special ed teachers?
So special ed and interventionists, so special educator is shared between both buildings.
There's just one.
Just one for services.
And how many interventionists do you have?
There's a shared math interventionist, and there's a literacy interventionist. Those are both part-time.
Oh, really?
Yep. In both buildings.
Okay, and then what
Specialists
specialists?
shared between both buildings. There's art, outdoor ed, PE,
So art is .4?
0.4. Yep.
That's, gym?
Is 0.8.
Okay.
Music is 0.4. And then outdoor ed and flexible pathways is 1.0. 1.0, full-time.
But that's in both schools?
That's split between both schools. Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And library, sorry, is
Aye.
0.4.
For both schools?
Right. Yep. Sorry, 0.4 across both schools. So
Oh,
like,
really?
they're all shared, yep. They're all shared position. And then the nurse is 1.0 between both buildings, and the school counselor is 0.6 between both buildings.
Okay, counselor. 0.3, 0.3, and nurse. 0.5.
And we have one Lindy.
And yeah, I guess only one in the principal.
Yeah, and you're, yes. God bless you.
And I just want to add one thing, because you used a great word in your intro, and it's not in there. You said fear. And you're not going to see fear in those words, but how...
You can infer it. You can
Yeah,
infer the fear.
absolutely, you're dead on with that. So how do you begin to take that feedback that you were all there, emotional, coming from all different angles? How do you begin to boil that down to themes that are concrete? And if you hear from the community, well, I don't want this, okay, let's focus on what you want. What do you want? What do you think works well? Where do you want to go with that? And boil those things down to themes, because you're absolutely right. There's emotions in this material. There absolutely is. And You absolutely need to consider that, but how do we get that down to concrete themes that impact this board in those areas?
So, Jamie, thank you. Everybody right now should have common themes, prompt 1, common themes, prompt 2, and common themes, prompt 4. You should have Rochester, Stockbridge, and community. So let's start with number 1. Take some time right now. Look at that, read through them, and start to say, and it's Chris said, begin to boil it down. When you're looking at that, and the first prompt by design, again, broad, the ideal future vision. It helps you now hear what people see as that future vision. Spend some time, highlight, check off, start to think. I will ask somebody to maybe be a recorder for me, because writing and talking is, I have a hard time with that. But the goal would be 3 sets of people, same question, common themes, and can you as the board now start to unpack that and focus it down? So that you may be able to create that vision, the purpose, the why of the work.
They can talk with each other if they want.
Absolutely, yes, please. If it was a bigger
You can-
group, I'd split you up into 2.
You can elbow partner talk.
Yeah, this is partner talk, but if you want to read through it first, definitely talk. And like I said, I'll need somebody just to kind of capture and throw it up on the flip chart.
All right, on the chart. I can, but my handwriting's horrendous.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to type if I wouldn't read my own.
It'll look like that.
Do you need a marker?
Oh, no.
Thank you, I appreciate this.
Yeah.
And again, feel free to talk amongst yourselves for a little bit, similar to the way we did the focus groups.
I definitely see preparedness for the students for the next step in life as a common theme. And local control.
Local control.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share a little bit what they're thinking right
I just want to read through it first.
now? We're gonna do one prompt at a time, so you don't have to get ahead of yourself.
Single grades is one that's repetitive. The question about 6th grade staying in the system is another one that's been
In the first
repetitive.
prompt, if you see that?
Oh, the first prompt,
No,
sorry. I
only
know.
talking first prompt.
First prompt.
Just
Oh,
because that's
okay,
overwhelming to try to
Okay,
read.
one prompt.
Okay.
One prompt at a
One
time.
prompt at a time. There's a lot here.
I see, staff support and is a theme. Yeah, it's the collaboration and
I also see there's a lot said about more opportunities, so whether it's hands-on, expanded, consistent opportunities.
and I wonder what opportunities we're talking. Are we talking about academic, physical,
No, it's-
explorative?
It's laid out here, gardening plans, outdoor spaces, single aligned curriculums, access to supports.
Also STEAMs.
Right, I see
STEAM
them.
and STEM, robotics, foreign languages. I know in the table I was at, foreign language came up like multiple times. Wellness, safety, and support. Yeah, so opportunities, expanded learning opportunities, seems to be in all three areas.
But it does, both of, reading through those are all learning opportunities.
Yes, yeah, I tried to
You
like,
know, not being on the lacrosse team.
no.
Opportunities.
Not actually.
No. I
Right.
tried to like highlight art
Yes.
things and then find them in here. So
Great.
there seems to be a lot in terms of academics and a lot in terms of communication. That's
Yeah.
where we're gonna focus in on two areas.
That's why, honestly, I went with that, with talking with Jamie about using your own goals, because as I was highlighting through this myself, I could plug things into that.
Wendy,
Yeah.
what percentage of outreach do you think runs through, it's Alma, right, the platform? Because I'm receiving a little bit more now, but certainly that's a platform that could be utilized more heavily.
Most email stuff is done through Alma.
Mhm.
Because it's much easier, it's a lot
Sure.
easier than what it used to be. And then like that lovely robocall that everybody got about field day tomorrow, that's through something called Final Site.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Am I cutting you off? or-
No.
Okay. About PD.
Sure.
So is your PD differentiated? So are there different opportunities for teachers to do different things during PD time, or is everybody getting the same thing all the time?
It's split. So like when we go supervisory union-wide, there's opportunities for them to get different things based on maybe, because we have some folks that are like content specialists, they really focus on math instruction or literacy instruction, so they'll go to those. Same for specialists. At the building level, sometimes it's all the same depending on what we're working on. If it's a bigger like social emotional topic, and sometimes it's based on grade-alike teams to differentiate that way. So they have a thought partner or a learning partner.
And do you have critical friends groups, like, do you have like, you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. We do not have this established.
I know that sounds so terrible.
Well,
Critical friendships is really a good thing,
reflective
honestly.
friends. The tricky part about that, I have been in places where that happens, is
Not if it's forced.
right, and it's been teacher driven. So the
Right.
idea is that you're like, hey, I'm looking for some feedback that's not evaluative. I'm looking
Yes.
for like peer feedback,
Yeah.
not necessarily.
Or I have a
me.
dilemma, can you help me
Yeah,
out?
can you help me?
That can just be
We
my
do-
support, not.
yeah. We do use some of our faculty meeting for that stuff as well, like bring a dilemma and work through it. But the way I've seen it is then you get invited to the classroom and do it. And sometimes in larger places, it's a couple of teachers at a time to get some different perspective. Our schedule doesn't necessarily lend for a couple teachers at a time to go to the same place. So we've talked about like having a substitute for a half day to let folks rotate, and that's where it stalls out, because the idea of having a sub,
Right,
It's
it's a lot of
not-
work.
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So I'm sorry, I keep asking.
No,
I'm
that's
gonna
okay.
I just wanna like, look at this and feel for the teachers more.
I appreciate that.
I just lost my question. I'll get back to it next.
Okay.
No, we appreciate your perspective. And thank you for asking.
And just so the board is a reminder that professional development is planned by your building-based leadership teams, as per the CBA.
That's perfect.
So teachers should be helping drive this train with Lindy around what PD they want and how they want those days to look.
Okay, that's good to know.
Lindy doesn't get to just plan PD. It has to have that leadership team's
Yeah.
support and buy-in.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than sitting in a PD about differentiation and not have it be differentiated.
Agreed.
Access to emotional support in counseling.
Yep.
And my understanding, our counselors in Rochester twice a week, and she's in Stockbridge once a week.
Yep.
That may make it difficult to make connections with students in Stockbridge.
Only in the Stockbridge staff bucket did I see the maintaining our school buildings and grounds. So it's not that it's a common theme, but I underlined it there because it is part of our capital facilities and is part of our goals. So.
It might show up in some of the other prompts.
Yeah, I think it does show up in some of the other prompts
Yeah.
from going through it.
So give it a little asterisk.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye out for it.
And it was stated in the beginning of that meeting that people thought that we were making decisions that we weren't making, like we had already decided that we were gonna close Stockbridge, and that was never,
Right.
ever been said.
Right. Well, I read it as the physical maintaining, putting the roof on, painting the sides, not just keeping both buildings open, but the actual, when they, just because the rest of the sentence talks about the learning areas and the grounds and the sports field, like mowing. And I was thinking of physical maintenance, not the opened or closed.
Do we have a regular schedule for painting and for,
So we do have a capital, a facilities team that has a whole plan as to what, they've done a lot of work on when things should be painted and when windows should be replaced, and we could definitely have a report from them.
Capital budget.
Yeah, we have the capital budget to help support that, so. But it would be good probably to bring that, to let everybody know that's new on the board where we're at with that.
I also have like community engagement as a common thread, keeping the community informed and engaged seems to come up in a couple of different ways between all three.
Right, and I guess I thought that went over under the communications bucket, but maybe we need to just add it and the buckets will fill.
Yeah, what'll happen is, if you can already see, just as you've taken multiple themes, and they're starting to come together. Student prep, staff support, collaboration, expanding learning opportunities, access to social, emotional support and counseling. That's one of your academic social emotional achievement is one of your goals. So it's already, this work you're doing right now, all right, let's look at maintain schools. You can speak to that. We're not sure. See, I like this. Is it maintain the buildings as schools, or is it maintenance to the buildings? That could be a future question that we need clarified, being the board, before you start to think of the next steps. So you've already got a little bit, and I bet as you read through more of these, you're gonna see, but you know what I also look at here? Planning. Because if this becomes the common themes for the purpose of the district, planning then jumps into the bucket. Because as a board, it's your role to assist in the planning and moving the district forward. And the purpose of tonight is helping you narrow it down. You can't be all to everything. And nothing, I live in a 3 to 5 year plan in my world. Everything's 3 to 5 years. I did it as a principal, I did it as a superintendent. 3 to 5, 3 to 5, 3 to 5. But I have to know that direction. And I know first year to get to year 3 to year 5. And guess what? You start this process all over again, you'll go back 3 to 5, 3 to 5. What other common themes out of all of it? Just for prompt 1, you can see you're narrowing the focus down. It's about student achievement, staff support, social emotional, and that's your first bullet up there, is about academic, social, and emotional achievement. And
I think,
go ahead.
I think the community engagement one is more than communication. I think we need to figure out what barriers are stopping us from being truly community schools. It's an SU-wide goal, but yet folks aren't feeling that. This is coming through as a theme. And so if we're surveying, one of the areas that I think could be helpful as for us strategic planning wise is what are the barriers that are not allowing the community or stakeholders to feel like they are welcomed and that we are actually living, breathing community schools. Because I see community connection come up past communication.
So, the library in Rochester used to always have programs, and it is a community place. But nobody knew about them, really. I mean, if you knew the right place to go to look on the right website, but now the librarian, the amount of programs she's doing is more, and the amount of outreach is more. It's on Front Porch Forum all the time. It's posters up at the, so it feels like a very community place, even though I'm not accessing any of those programs, but I know about them. I feel it's strong for the community, and I'd love to see something like that at the school level as well. What's happening here, and but some more outreach, more just welcoming everybody.
Can you grab that so we don't lose it?
Would you like to move on to prompt 2, same process?
One question for
Yeah.
Wendy.
Yeah.
In regards to sort of the collaboration between the two campuses and curriculum specifically, are each of the cohorted grades following a similar curriculum? And is that designed by each campus, or do they mirror each other?
It mirrors, so we use, both campuses, all grades use direct instruction, K through 3, and then 4 through 6 as needed. And that also includes our spelling program.
That's for literacy.
And that's for literacy. And then 4 through 6, both campuses also use our new EL literacy program as well, which includes a lot of our writing as well. And then both campuses, pre-K through 5, use Bridges math curriculum or program. And then for 6th grade, we use connected math.
Okay. So there would be a similarity if kids were to be involved in a different grade, in a different campus, in
Right.
regards to the process and the material.
Yep.
That's true pretty much across the SU at this point.
So all the SUs are using the same program?
Instructional materials other than direct instruction for the primary grades. Some schools are using foundations.
And what about science and social studies?
That's actually what we agreed on in one of our in-services. We're moving to, we're gonna work on the social studies because there's a little bit of a disagreement about what you use. They've narrowed it down to 2 choices as a collective and what makes sense K through 6. And then in science, they've agreed, they're gonna use mystery science with something else. I'm blanking on, but it's something else.
Yeah, chemistry science goes to 5th grade.
It does.
It doesn't
So there,
go to
and
6th
there are a couple of gaps that creates that's not there, but they've found.
Yeah, and it's a great program.
Pillars.
I mean,
Yeah, no.
it's easy for teachers to do it.
They took it with the standards to do a review to see what made the most sense. So we're not all teaching butter. My example is always butterflies. Butterflies from K through 6 gets really old, but it's everybody's favorite.
Right.
Right.
But the nice thing about that program is it's grade level.
Exactly. So.
And those programs are just between our district or those SU-wide? The math
We have
and
not
social
unified
studies?
science and social studies SU-wide for instructional tools.
Yes.
The curriculum, meaning the actual outcomes, are SU-wide.
Yes.
In statute, curriculum is an SU-wide.
Okay.
Like, in statute, the SU has to provide a viable curriculum.
But I'm really happy to hear that you're thinking of a K-6 curriculum for both those areas, because a lot of schools are bagging them until 4th grade. Like, they're not doing science or social, they're letting EL do science and social
The
studies.
former high school history teacher can't take that we don't have
What
a
about,
firm plan.
did you align that, I'm sorry, I know I'm
You're okay.
dominating.
We love it, keep going.
It's
Are
okay.
you aligning the social studies curriculum to the C3 standards?
And that's what ours is. SUI is picked from the C3 standards. There's just the difference in science and social studies standards versus literacy and math, just so folks know, is they're bands. So like by the time you get to the end of 2nd grade, you will be proficient in all of these things. And the time you get to the end of 5th grade, you'll be proficient in all these things. And then 6th grade starts a new band. So that's what we've spent a lot of work on the past couple.
I'm going to ask one more question just because I remembered what I wanted to ask before.
Go ahead.
I guess I could ask it to Jamie. What is your teacher mentor program, and what support do the mentors
You're
have?
looking at the administrator that works with them to oversee it.
Yes.
And
So our mentor program, every new teacher to us, regardless of experience, is assigned a teacher mentor. We have mostly gone to, we try and do content or grade alike, but we've learned the biggest support is having someone in the building that they can access daily as needed. So those are the partnerships we frequently look to do. It goes through the whole school year and sometimes the 2nd year if needed as determined.
And what training do the mentors get?
Our mentors do a training in the summer based on the Mentoring Matters
Okay, yeah.
and a couple other things, because there's some gaps that are left in Mentoring Matters, but that's where we,
Remind me to share stuff with you.
I'd love.
And you should take a look at our handbook. I mean,
Yeah.
we've spent a lot of time and energy in this program
I can share that with
to
you.
try to decrease turnover.
Yep.
So I know that it's not on this prompt 1, but through this conversation, I'm hearing a lot of through 5th grade and then something new starts in 6th grade. So I think that's something we should
It is,
we'll circle back to discuss.
That
I
just
would
happened,
agree.
like example, Bridget's only goes to
Right.
5th grade math.
right.
Right.
The standards are built to 5th grade, and then they change to middle school standards in 6th
Correct.
grade. 6, 7, 8 is the way the standards are in language arts and math and science
And social studies.
and social studies. So there are individual grades up to that point, and then once you hit 6th grade, it's 6, 7, and 8.
Yep, it's
Okay.
just, that's why we try and pull, when we have our content specialist teachers, it's why 6th grade is by themselves.
Yep,
For
okay.
our instruction, because it is so different from what is going on in a 4th and 5th grade.
6th grade teacher for 22 years, I can.
Okay, you know the one to tap for information. Okay, great.
On 2? Probably
Just right on the
put
bottom.
2 right underneath here.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna take all this back and do the same thing to it today. All right, Prompt 2 was about making people think that you plan the future, the ideal future. How do you get there? What do you have in place? What do you need in order to move forward? What are some of the barriers? So prompt 2 asks people in the community as well as staff to, all right, you're going in the future, you want to build it. What do we need? What do we have? What do we need? What are some of the barriers? And then they came up with common themes. You did a great job with prompt 1.
Less birds for those? So I find it interesting that space, physical space, classroom capacity popped up. And I know Stockbridge has smaller space, but I was surprised that it also popped up in Rochester's classroom capacity. As concerns.
I think, someone who listened in on that group, some of that was around that idea of potentially being in different types of configurations, like, was it really? Like, because it's not just about moving from today, like what we have right now, but like if we were to make.
Oh, okay, because this is going forward.
Right.
To classroom capacity could be an issue depending on whatever. And that science.
Which is true, I mean, if you were to all be in one building, capacity would be a concern.
Right.
So I'm also seeing common theme between the staff of the two. Bullet point 4 for Stockbridge for additional academic and student support systems. as well as last bullet point for Rochester, a desire for a more unified, future-focused district that supports students over time. So I'm just noting that both of the staff are insinuating or suggesting that the platform doesn't quite support students in its current format.
Is there a planning room in both schools?
No,
Is there a,
called my office, but
There's either a behavioral specialist from Claire Martin in the building or a ladies in the building. And they split across the two buildings.
so if you're not here, that person's
Right.
here? Is there a space, oh, your office is the space? How does your furniture hold up?
fine.
So there's nothing being thrown or anything like that?
We've graduated past those behaviors. I'm proud to say.
That's good.
It happens.
Oh,
We do, in this building, we do have a space that is like a plain, empty, like take a break space, whether it's for sensory overload or for other reasons, but mostly it's for sensory overload right now. It's not used because we're throwing things or, I'm not gonna say a pencil doesn't get thrown, but like we're not throwing large objects.
How many paras do you have?
In this building, there is a general BI that supports some students and another BI, so there's 2 behavior interventionists and there's 2 paraeducators, and then in Stockbridge, there's 3 paraeducators in this building and there's 3 paraeducators in Stockbridge.
So
Because
there's
preschool,
two
you need
BIs
one.
in this building? Are they given to you by HCRS or are they
Claire Martin.
Claire Martin.
Claremont Center? Okay.
If a student needs a behavioral one-on-one, we really use BIs because it comes with all the support,
Yeah, BIs are great.
you know, of having a behavioralist, actually a BCBA doing that work
Yeah.
with the client, with that client.
Jamie, if people are asking for additional staffing and stronger building of support, if we're finding ourselves certainly underneath the existing cap, and then in your projected year-by-year reductions, we're still underneath that final number, right? Then do we find
As
ourselves,
long as they don't take our secondary student weights away, which they've threatened last session, they didn't do it.
okay,
And the person that was pushing that is not running again on appropriations, so, sorry, on House Ways and Means, so I hope that that doesn't come to the forefront. That's the only time where we would have a major issue with the cap, of which us and lots of districts throughout the state that tuition should throw a fit, because we do need those weights to support kids, because the announced tuition supporting all our kids, whether they come from poverty or have social emotional needs or academic needs. Like, we need those weights because that announced tuition of 24,000, let's say as an example, right, at a neighboring district, it's to educate all kids, not one type of kid. So, but yeah, I think one of the next steps in a bucket that the board should do, and frankly I need to do, is get a better handle on what does that mean? Like, are we talking about it's hard to have one principal across 2 campuses? Do you know what I mean? Like, I have some, like, more digging in that I think we need to do to get a better sense of what is it exactly that looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
Support that they're feeling that they need.
and I think, I don't want to jump ahead to bullet point 3, right? But I think part of this plays into the fact of, and it came into question, well, what does restructuring mean, right? What does that actually mean on boots on the ground? And if we're going to ultimately consider a different structure than we currently exist in, then we also need to be able to provide budgetary items back to the town, right? To say, if we need additional staff and all of a sudden our campuses look different or the structure is different, then does that provide itself for additional resources, if we're underneath the state cap and we project to be that way, then does that mean we can spend more going forward and still feel safe, right? And these sort of decisions. So, and I know a lot of that will come into bullet point 3 in regards to much more macro perspectives in regards to what we consider going forward.
I do think it's probably a survey question to dig into,
I
but one
agree.
example is like when you teach multi-age, right? There's a group that's with a teacher and there's a group that is following the expectations to
Sure.
work independently.
Sure.
And there's some kids who can do that and there's some kids, right? So
Yeah.
one group that I overheard was like, when you're teaching second grade math, what does third grade look like? Yes, I've taught all these things, but you lose out. So like those are examples I would be curious to dig in.
And I think the end result here is that we'll go through this and then we'll actually generate a survey that goes out to the community, right? And then you will weight those responses. That information will come back to us.
You got it.
And then we'll be able to have a further discussion on those highly weighted points.
Exactly.
Right.
I want to go back. You had something we crossed off up here, but you mentioned the common theme about the single classrooms.
Yep.
Yep, that should go, yeah, that came out of the prompt too, should be in there. But you're dead on, because
Single grade class.
Single grade class.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
what you're doing tonight is taking the voice of whoever showed up at these events. And now as a board, when this is all said and done, like my last slide is, okay, what questions do you have? Because we need to know. So if you look at everything you're saying, the purpose is to build a district that is gonna meet the academic, social, emotional needs, not only of the kids, support the staff, you have better staff, learning, collaborating, it's better for the kids, beautiful. All right, how are we gonna get there? Now you're starting to see other things. What about single class grades? What about multi-grades, pros and cons? As you read through this, we need more common themes out of prompt 2. But what you're doing tonight is allowing you to then do what for the future? Plan. And maybe once you get deeper into, well, what's the difference between multi-grade, single-grade classrooms? Does that free up staff? Do we need more? Is it better for kids? Is it great for teaching? Does that provide that unity across the district? Can I align curriculum better? Do I have more? It's all here. It's just taking the time to sift through it and drop it into a workable plan.
One of the themes I see that I think threads through this too is, the community talked about a clearer future vision. I think that is also what the staff's asking for in regards to this idea of where are we landing as a district, right? Like, I think that's what this work's so important. And if it's, we have 2 campuses and we're multi-age, then what is the strategic planning around, we're gonna be really good at that, right? Like, that is a skill set that we need to hone into, and how can we have that be predictable?
Right.
So that we have teachers that are set to teach those same multi-age classes. That's one example. Or is it as a district that there's a priority of single grade classes, right? And so, but I see a theme of like, there needs to be some decision making as we go through this process at the end of, this is what we are.
Yeah.
And we're gonna move forward like X.
Right.
So, Jamie, would Hancock Granville come in as a number 2 bullet point or number 3? Because obviously part of this decision-making process in regards to potentially restructuring into something as it comes out of the community is, does that then alienate people in Granville Hancock from a revenue perspective? Are they having to bus or be transported differently than they are currently? Where does that come in regards to points? Should we put that under 2 or 3?
Looks like it talks about that in 3.
Right, okay.
Under the responses here, but I would look towards our,
No, this is really, the prompts are the prompts they elicit. The idea is, pull the common themes. If it
Yeah.
comes up in prompt 3, I bet it's related to 2 or 3 other things in prompt 3.
My sense is, and I'd be curious, I wasn't there, like the Rochester staff, when they're thinking barriers, they bring up transportation challenges, is my sense is that's
Right,
part of what
that's-
they're talking about
Exactly.
there.
And those 2 districts came up in the discussion.
And, right, no, you as a district, without those 22 tuition students, you are no longer viable, you're way over the cap.
Right.
So whatever we're thinking about forward facing, right, like that's
Yeah.
a $500,000 in revenue. We've got to figure out how are we looking to try to attract more tuition students from Pittsfield and Granville, Hancock. Not do anything that creates a barrier or alienates them to not want to attend.
And who's our primary contact there and who's in touch with those people? Because I don't
looking at-
know.
I mean, you're looking at it, right? Like,
Okay.
they're complete choice, so it's hard. I mean,
Right.
they register through my office and, you know, we do community outreach to them, but it's, when you don't have a school, it's hard, it becomes harder and harder, right, to engage folks because they have kids that expand across all up north, south, west.
And
Which I think brings
is
it back to us, the communication and making it a community school, is that people who are gonna move into Hancock and Granville see this community school because we have a loud voice and we're very vocal and they know what's happening, and so they're like, I wanna send my kid there.
So just so you have a little perspective, they have 33 elementary students right now. You have 22 of them.
Right.
Wow.
And it just raises the question for me that should there be outreach to their community leaders in regards to part of this process? Because if it comes out that there is a restructuring of some sort relative to where we sit now, and that endangers half of our students coming from those communities, then all of a sudden does that become not a viable option?
Oh, I think
Right.
as you start to move down into August,
Right.
like when we host here, we're absolutely going to need to invite those families to join that August meeting. And I think, again, barrier here in August is going to be helpful to that community to be able to get down here.
Excellent.
In both schools, I know here you have a teacher who teaches math and science, and then the kids go for social studies and language arts to another
Yep.
teacher? Is that in both schools?
Yes, for 4 through 6, yes.
Okay, and then there's self-contained for K to 3.
Right, but they're multi-age.
Okay. Those are just things I'm just my brain,
No.
I'm semi-awake tonight.
You're asking great questions. Keep it up. Clarifying a lot of stuff that.
Anything else jump out at you from that prompt?
I think, again, please chime in. I think one of the themes I see with your staff is just the challenge of, we have smaller schools, so we have a lot of shared staff.
Yeah.
And so I just see a theme around just some of the barriers that provides. And I just think we need to figure out, again, I'm thinking survey questions, right? Like specific, what are those pressures that folks are feeling? Because, you know, other than your classroom teachers, everything's shared across campuses.
And I think when we build the survey, there should be like easy answers, and there should also be some long-form answers, basis, just so we can hear.
Will we see the survey
Absolutely.
in advance?
Oh, yeah.
And have an
You're gonna build it,
opportunity to-
design it, yep,
Okay.
yep. Yep.
And when, that should be when?
I mean, after
Roughly?
this.
After
yeah.
this, and we're hoping, you want it
Right.
in August, I think.
Well, July.
July, August.
Yeah.
Okay. So we would have opportunity to
Absolutely.
chime in on the questions and the format
Yeah,
and whatnot? Okay.
we'll give it back to this board, and the board will tweet through Jamie and get it back to us, and, yeah. We just did a very similar survey approach for Rivendell Interstate. They had like 13 different options, and they asked us to come in, work with a steering committee, and narrow them down. And we did that. It was like you could go onto the survey, click, we weighted them different, which one you'd prefer most to least, and then there were like open-ended. And we grabbed all that, narrowed that down, went back to the steering committee, and we were just up there maybe 2 weeks ago. And they're now at the point where the messaging is tight. They're putting together a second survey, which will go out, which will be much tighter, much focused. Because what they found out was, you know, we have this, but we need the financials. And we need, what's the rationale? And so that's where they're at. So yeah, we would work with you on the development.
Can you grab, I don't wanna lose that we need to check in with, I wanna make sure we're, just the shared staff part, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we need to get some more data on
Like what's working, what's not? Or just.
that. Yeah, I just
shared
see a
staff
theme,
and-
I think one of the themes is
What we'll
that's a
do
challenge.
is,
like,
once the
like-
Right,
prompts
because
and-
they're saying it more staff,
So what we'll
additional
do,
staffing.
once we narrow the prompts, 3 will be done, we're gonna flip, and it's just gonna be weighted questions.
Okay.
And you'll have a chance to say, we need to know more about this, we need to know more about this. And then we'll pull all this together, summarize this, get it back to the board. And then you'll start to work on your questions, get them back to us, we build a survey.
So one additional question, and I know it came up a bunch at the community evening, and I'm personally a bit contradicted on this myself, but it's many responses call for stronger communication, more inclusive community involvement beyond parents, and better collaboration across towns. And I've become a little torn on this because I think the resources are generally there, right? So people can attend school board meetings, people can read the minutes, they can watch the videos, they can do all this. But at the same time, it seems like there was a theme that, and maybe this is just the world that we live in now, that people want to be fed this information and not necessarily look for it themselves. And so I think one of the challenges that we have is how to better push that information out so people unfortunately don't feel like they have to do the work in order to find it, right? And so I would just say as a blanket statement as the board, I think we should find a way in working with you both to find a way how to push that information out as efficiently as possible. And I can sit back and say, well, yeah, it's available. You just have to go here and you click through some spots and you find it. But maybe we've moved to a space where people aren't necessarily willing to do that. And we should find a way to try and push some of this information out a little more aggressively, if the capacity exists.
We did start doing the board briefs in response to the other survey. So maybe at the end of the board briefs, we put the links in where they can find, I mean, just I'll add the links.
Well, I think specifically with what we're doing now, I think you're right. I think we do have to feed them with what we're doing now. A great example is 3 of our trees got cut on the park in Rochester, and if you look at the Facebook links over it, it was amazing how suddenly everybody were professional arborists and commented about these trees coming down and how nobody knew about it, but yet the select board talked about it for over a year, but nobody knew.
Because no one went to a select board meeting.
Right.
Right, exactly. So if we can collectively find a way to do that, I think it would be in our best interest, because then we would have a more informed public for those people who are going to actually be involved in the process.
And Robin, thanks for all your efforts to help us with what you've been doing.
Josh is helping.
Josh,
I'm
whoever's been doing
just reposting what you said. Yeah, okay.
Well, Amy's my, she's my check.
I hope it's been helpful. I
Yeah.
assume it has.
I have heard from older people in town that they like that
Great.
because they don't have to read, they don't have to go looking.
Yeah.
But, when I'm hearing communication, I think it's not just the board, I think it's also they want to hear more from everybody, right?
Right, which is part of community school and people knowing what's going on, which brings the excitement that, there's a concert, there's a graduation, there's.
So what would be a way of avenue of doing that? Like social media, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, you have to
Like
be careful there.
Instagram or that's, talk about feeding.
Right.
That is a feed, right? You were mentioning Facebook, like
Yeah.
not on it, but.
I'm not sure, can we coordinate it with the town clerks and the town sites?
No, yeah.
And can there be a subheading there potentially of?
Each
There-
town,
Okay,
yes.
and is it thorough enough?
It's a link to a link.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so,
But they're, yeah.
right, so this is exactly the process of how do we simplify that and make sure that it's easily accessible?
We also can't
Agreed.
give someone more work to do without them having a say in the matter.
Understood.
No, I think that is a good topic to put on our list,
Yeah,
to
just
continue
in-
to explore. It has always been something that we've always tried to figure out what the best way is, and there's no one way.
Yep.
Everybody receives their information differently, but I do go back to what you said, that we're in a world that they need to be fed the information. They don't want to do the work to go find the information.
Yeah, unfortunately the case.
I was like, you don't have to raise your hand, we're in the
I think another
floor.
com- I mean, I do think a common theme to get back to that we just need to, you as a district, the community highlighted the legislative requirements. We're engaging in this conversation right now about our side, but we are soon going to be launching into a much larger conversation with a larger study committee
Right.
process as well, and just how, and I think it ties into communication, how are we making certain we're keeping our communities updated too, as that starts to ship off. Because that cooperative educational service area board is gonna meet in the next 45 days, and the study committees are gonna be formed and meeting in September. They have to meet by October 15th, so.
With regard to reaching out, it seems to me we need to have, our initial contact can be through a lot of different media, including front page forum, Facebook, other multimedia, but if we can, I would think it's a good assumption that anyone can get access to a web page, and that if we make a consistent effort to put the QR codes in every document, in everything that goes out, that in maybe buying some newspaper, a small newspaper ads that have just that barcode here, you want to know what's going on, scan this. And so that everything funnels back to one source, which is, we already have, which is our web pages. So,
It's a good idea.
Do you think that if we're supposed to have this by August? So do you think, does Stockbridge have a farmer's market? Okay, but for Rochester, if we had to table at the farmer's market with this QR code and like here are the questions listed out for them to read, and they can get their phones out and do it right then and there.
For the next survey that we're putting out.
Yeah, sometime in
that would
August, if we
be-
could, if they let us, set up a table for 2 weeks or something like that.
I think that's gonna be the question.
Okay.
I like, any more on prompt two?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, I know.
No, you're fine, because I'm taking,
Is this conversation still part of prompt two, because I was just gonna add to it.
yeah, whatever you want.
All right, no, just the point of just your front page forum posts that we do a couple days after
Right.
would be helpful to like refreshen everyone's attention, like days before our meeting to
Oh.
repost, to put out again, getting, the more we put
This
it
is what we
out.
talked about last time, we're about to have another meeting.
So
Yeah,
save
like,
it.
here's a redraft, like post it twice essentially.
Post it twice.
I don't know, it's just an idea.
That way, if we need to tweak something, we post, we can do that.
I don't know, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, or a couple days before our meetings. And like Robert said, put QR codes on or put a link on the,
Yeah.
so that, you want to watch last meeting, here
There
you go.
Anyway, sorry, thank you.
No, because, without even thinking, one of the questions I'd want to push through a survey, we're all assuming how everybody out there wants to digest information.
Right.
We don't know. I am horrible with scan codes. I don't use them. I can't figure out why we lost the NFL channel on my local cable, because you have to scan it. I'm like, I'll ask my wife to do that. So that would not be something that would draw me in.
Right.
However, something else, Yeah, I always check this. And I think that's one,
That'd be a
as
great
we
idea on the
start to
survey.
dive into that question, that survey, how do you want us to communicate with you?
Yeah, there we go.
It could be something that simple, give them options, rank them, and then say, hey, we're open for your ideas. Someone might say, well, twice a year, the fair, where everybody's at, you should do a table, all right, fine. Or even, but I think that's, as I read through this, communication keeps popping, but we don't know what they want. And I say they're the stakeholders.
And is there, I can't ask them questions. I can ask you, because you live in Stockbridge, and you live in Stockbridge.
Yeah.
Is there like a some kind of community festival or something in Stockbridge in the summertime, or a place where people go, like you see people all the time, and in
Just
this
Wild
specific?
Fern, I feel like it's the only connecting,
Wild Fern.
yeah, no?
There's
Yeah, no, I
events,
mean-
there's the flea market, there's the pie for breakfast. Like if you're trying to get outside of our school community, I would say those are two.
There's trunk or treat at Halloween. I mean, there are a
Yeah.
few,
But what
few
about in the
community
summer,
events
because
that,
we need summer,
The
right?
flea market, and the meeting house is doing a bunch of events,
Yeah.
especially on the Stockbridge Meeting House is putting on a bunch of
So that would be a good place to maybe like try to get some outreach. Okay, because I don't want it to be Rochester heavy, I'm just trying to find both ways.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, let's dive into prompt 3.
I just wanted to add to round 2, and that is, Jamie talked to it, but every SU district board is going to be confronting with requirements to participate, consider, negotiate, you name it, under Act, was it 955, and that
We don't have
starts
the
this
act
fall.
number yet.
And so that's more than communicating to the public. That's a workload that we're going to have to do really strategically and carefully in so many respects. And I just want, that ball is very important about the future of our small district, as well as what we're doing. So we've got to figure out a way that we can do both well. If you could capture that, I'd appreciate it.
Don't get rid of that, I need to take a picture of it.
Oh, I take pictures too.
Yeah, 'cause- so I can do the,
What do you post?
oh, it's on the ground. Best way to keep notes. There we go, thank you.
No problem.
prompt 3 is very consistent amongst all three. 2 steps in community. Single grade
Yep.
versus split,
Versus split?
versus split, or
That's what people are
versus
asking.
combined, right.
People are asking what?
Well, when one.
Nobody's stating one or the other, right?
Right, well.
I just haven't gotten through the whole
right.
thing.
Sure,
Versus split? Sorry.
versus combined like we have now,
Oh, versus,
right?
got it, sorry. Yeah.
Whether or not it's pre-K 6 or pre-K 5. Maintain both campuses. Or And Robin, to your point, it's super clear that the staff is anxious.
Yeah.
Employment impacts.
Yep, I mean, absolutely.
So is there 2 teachers, 3 to 6 here, and 2 teachers, 3 to 6 over there?
So this year are similar configurations, next year will not. So I think that's what you see come out too. Stockbridge is pretty consistent configurations year in, year out. A K1, a 2-3, and a 4-5-6. Rochester's tends to fluctuate based on, we'll get like a really large cohort and that'll change things.
How does it
Well,
work?
4, 5, 6 has a math science teacher.
But,
a home
right,
teacher,
in both.
just a
Oh,
sec.
sorry.
And then ELA teacher.
You were going for my, like,
Yeah.
yeah, my fears.
Yeah.
With the 4 and
ELA
6.
teacher.
Yeah.
That does the ELA for 4, 5, 6. So yes, there are 2 licensed teachers doing that, not one doing everything.
Okay.
Same here.
See, I misunderstood. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely see the theme of just, of confusion of what restructuring means. Everybody's looking for clarification, which there is so many different ideas of
And I think that's from,
restructuring.
yeah, from both an employee and teacher's perspective as well as community.
Yeah.
And it's consistent.
Right. And I think that would, as we, we'll be able to answer that once we get a little further in this process.
For those who've been on the board a lot longer than me, what are the actual steps that would need to be taken if there was restructure? So I believe Bill had mentioned in one of the earlier meetings, for example, that it's in the bylaws that each town has to have pre-K through 6.
Well, let me stop you there, and I would like you to give out a specific example of restructuring,
Oh.
because same thing, it could mean all different things, not this general word restructuring. Are you saying restructuring by removing fifth, or removing sixth?
Sure, so let's just say that example,
Yeah.
and I'm not proposing it by any means. But if that was the case, does the board have to vote in any capacity to do that?
You vote to
What-
warn a vote of the towns,
And
and
is-
the electorate would have
Is
to
that,
approve it.
is it majority, or is it, like, what, how's that
In that
vote?
example, it's majority.
Okay.
Do we also have to have approval from the state board to?
No.
Okay.
So how would that affect us financially, though, if we lost?
Right,
15,
that's a whole nother
If that's something
question.
you wanted to pursue, we would run finances for you.
Right.
And I'm not proposing it, I'm simply asking about the logistics of how we vote in the potential of any structural change. in
There's
the
really
votes that we
nothing
do.
that you can do that's gonna be moving kids and changing your configurations without a vote of you and a vote of the district.
So if it says in the bylaws that there's a K to 6 in each building, does that, so then we can't change that? Or it goes back to the towns and they decide whether that changes?
Like I just said,
Yes, the town can
you
change.
as a board would have to vote to warn that, and then it'll go back to the district to vote.
And so they would be change, it would be changing the bylaws.
Yeah. Just like you already have once.
Yeah, we did that once, we changed the articles of agreement.
Articles of agreement. Yep. Closing of a school is where there's specific language around a supermajority, or maybe it's unanimous.
Unanimous.
Yeah. One of my districts say supermajority, your district says you as a board can't even warn that without unanimous support of the board. So one of you can just halt that whole conversation.
How many sixth graders do we have approximately?
There's 11 total between both buildings.
Next year or now?
Right now, sorry, next year there's
Because this year's almost done.
9.
9 between 2 buildings?
There's a lot of time between now and the end of the year. Yep, there's 9.
Lindy breaks this out for you every report.
Yeah, because I got it right here.
Well, he asked the question, I figured I'd jump on it.
Yep.
And we need 15 for the numbers, I think?
For 6th grade.
For minimum class size, yeah.
And we don't have any
For a
other.
straight 6, you can combine a 5, 6 to
Right.
get there.
Can you do a straight for certain subjects and combined for other subjects?
We're all still trying to unpack how the state's actually gonna count the middle class sizes.
Because I'm thinking, I mean.
They
like-
delayed the implementation a year because the state's still not ready to actually quantify that well.
That's just curious, that could be a way to manipulate them.
Listen, it's not just you. Every district in this SU will have issues if we don't look to figure out how to best maneuver with the number of class sizes, including the high school. They're in the most troubling predicament out of all the buildings.
Am I correct in saying that in a ballpark for loss of income for, would be a couple $100,000 for loss of sixth grade?
Well, it depends on each of your cohorts, right? It's, you know, it's about 21,000, 22,000 a student times whatever.
Right, so if I have the population from 24, 25 in our annual book, and it looks like, so that there was 3 sixth graders from Sendingtown, and 1 in Stockbridge, so there's 4 total, 3 in Rochester and 1 in Stockbridge.
That's revenue added.
That's
On
revenue.
top of that, if you didn't, you'd.
Oh, you're talking about how much
tuition
it would cost to send them?
Yep.
Right, all right. Just, yeah, and I think that's, you know, it's always really good to take a look at, we do have our Hancock-Granville district who used to have schools, and they were small schools, and they consolidated down and then decided to tuition all because the thought of it being cheaper. And it'd be a great conversation to ask or to look at, you know, was it cheaper?
Yeah, my experience is it doesn't get cheaper when you do.
I feel like these guys are ready to start asking some questions.
I was waiting, that's what we were just like, it's about time to go to questions.
And these are questions just that generally we want to know, or questions that
This is- right,
specific
so
to ask
this-
our constituents?
Honestly, I was trying to figure this out for this group, and then I just said, you know what?
Let's just-
I'm reading through this, I have questions. And these are just me reading through everything you did, right? You should ask, is it multi-grade education? Do you know enough about that? Does the community know? I don't know enough about that because I never really experienced multi-grade. What is the effect of, you know, consolidation? If you decide to consolidate, these are just questions I threw in my head just to get you prompt up and running. And what's the future planning is required to support the student, staff, and community? Because you're hearing that through everything you've collapsed is student opportunity, support the staff, boom. And so this is, go back to communication, right? What's the best way to communicate? What would people like?
Yeah,
We
that's
don't know that.
That's definitely a good question. How do you want us to communicate with you?
How would you like
You know, that,
RS UD to communicate with you, the stakeholders? And stakeholders define it, staff, parents, non-parents of kids, community at large.
yeah. You know, I would like to understand from prompt 2, that they were looking for more support. What does that mean? What kind of support, we were talking about, does that mean you're looking for more of the counselor in each building full-time? Are you looking for more professional development? What kind of support in the staff? What does it look like? More staff or?
That question would flesh out your community's needs as well.
Right.
And, yeah, could you also ask, for the staff, my question is, how would they think restructuring would go? Like, what is their vision?
I'm sorry, I was in the tunnel during.
So I'd like to know what the staff what would their vision of restructuring be?
Wasn't that kind of what we've asked in these earlier?
But I would look at that, again, you're trying to do a survey that you want to get out to everybody that has the
Yeah.
ability to see it. So you could ask, work on a question that would be, what is your vision of restructuring? And then you know what you're gonna get? A flood.
Yeah.
We're gonna get all those comments, put them together, but it'll at least start to map out. Maybe people see this as keep it as is, we go single grade, that seems to be the overwhelming idea, then guess what? Now you're gonna go back to your goals, right? Planning, financials, boom, you don't know yet.
Jamie and Lindy, are you aware of there been any sort of definitive studies looking at combined grades versus single grades and educational outcomes?
Nationally?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And leaning in which direction?
They're both very successful.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Multi-age is a philosophy, and if it's done for people who are committed, by people who are committed to it, it can be really wonderful, especially in younger grades. Multi-age forced doesn't always work.
I think that comes back to what Jamie said, that if that's what we're gonna do, then that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna do it well.
Right,
We're gonna support the staff to do it that way,
Right.
but we need to make a clear decision that
There
that is.
hasn't been a clear decision on
Right.
this.
We've just been, how can we educate these kids and get a budget passed?
Yeah, I mean, we've been running parallel schools, right? And trying to do it in a fiscally responsible way.
So, yeah, so that's why I was doing that hybrid type of thing, because if you had a,
I mean, your district was trying to decouple itself just, 5.5 years ago.
right,
So that's, I mean, this step has been needed to be had. We just, I think, there's been hesitancy to have it because the last time we tried to have this conversation, frankly, it spearheaded a decoupling vote.
It sounded that way when we had our community engagement. Every single table brought up uncoupling or decoupling. Yeah, sorry. So I guess more information on that is my question. And are they happy with the arrangement of Rochester and Stockbridge as a whole community? Happy?
But, so the legislature did put a pin in decoupling.
Okay.
Any merged district now cannot decouple till 2035.
Maybe we should.
We should probably publish
So you just
that.
gotta think about
Yeah.
asking a question that might make people think that it can go
Well, then
that
it's,
way.
yeah, it's
but
just not an option.
It's not, it's 2035.
Well, I think that's important information for people to know,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know?
I think that needs to be spoken out loud. Considering there's no.
The governor hasn't signed it, so once he signs the bill, we will communicate, but I don't wanna say something's a bill without the governor's signature on it.
Could we put that up there, communicate restructuring limitations?
Once it becomes law, yes, we will
Okay.
do that.
I just don't want to lose it.
Yeah. One of the things to think about in a survey format is if I'm a parent, if I didn't go to the community engagement, I don't regularly watch the school committee meetings, why am I taking the survey?
Right.
So an intro, that the board can live with describes why you're really you are into the weeds, but we're still at a very high level. But you're likely going to be dealing predominantly with people who are not into the weeds on this.
Right.
So
Right.
thinking about how to get that feedback that's going to be now valuable to you and informative to you without overcomplicating some of these questions and it'd be great if everybody was watching this right now, was right on target with everything and right in the same mode, but you're gonna be dealing with a lot of people who, this is the first time this thought has even come in, and where did this come from? And why are we doing this? And people who've made up their mind already where they stand on this and aren't gonna change on it. So how do you balance all of that out in a survey to get information back that's valuable to you?
How long are the surveys, generally speaking?
It's really as long as you'd like them. I wouldn't recommend more than maybe 3, 4 questions max.
In the whole survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, because anything more, I get
You lose
hammered with a
other
million
people.
surveys, and if it's longer than 10 minutes, I'm gonna click off it. So we try to make it as, user-friendly as possible.
Is the survey, open answers or?
It can be, yeah.
Or,
Yep.
and is that better than clicking on, somewhat rarely?
So it depends on really the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
I don't think you're at a point where you're going to have a clear choice.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing, you're gonna pull more open-ended. How could we communicate? We heard it loud
Yeah.
and clear. How can we communicate? Now, maybe we could do under that a couple, email, check off the ones that you email this, and then you get to see that way. That's something we could build.
Okay.
So that you could go in and put a few choices, they click off, and then you leave it open. Is there any other way you would like to see us keep you informed and communicate with you? And then we'd pull that forward.
And think of it as a very small part of the process.
Right.
In a very early stage of the process. You may do a survey and come back and say, all right, we just didn't get enough respondents. Do we want to rethink it and resend it out? Do we not want to do surveys? Do we want to do something else? So every little step forward gives you data now back to make other decisions about what to do and how to do it. So it probably would be best to keep this as simple and easy to complete as possible.
Can it be multiple, like say we said, what do you see for restructuring, and then like gave 6 different
Ideas.
scenarios? Can they pick 3 or?
Yeah,
2?
absolutely. So let's say you wanted to do, okay, what would you think of restructuring? And we'll put, drop 6th grade. Click on 1 if you definitely could live with that. Click on 2 if you somewhat could live with that. Click on 3 if that's not even in your radar. And then that will get collapsed. You'll see percentages
Yep.
of that, and
Yeah.
now you pull out how, what, where. That's why I said even under the idea of communication, you could put, I think they could check boxes, or you could say, would you prefer email, this, or other, and let them go open-ended.
Is this like a Google form?
100%, and we build it to fit your needs, so, and we collect it all, we hold it all, and then we could break it out by town for you, we could break it out by however you want us to break it out.
And one of the things to think about in that scenario, as we're trying to break down themes and come up with ideas, which some of these may impact any discussion of looking at how the district operates, but a lot of this is just good ways for a school district to run,
Right.
regardless of what you're doing. So the only other piece I would say in regards to putting specific things out, I would just be a little, have those been discussed by the board? And did they get in this survey? Because you're certainly going to give the impression that
Right.
you've got some pieces out there. And I haven't heard that in the work we've done with
No, I haven't
you at all.
Right.
So, if usually when you get to that point where you're looking at scenarios, you do a deep dive into each one of those scenarios and understand it. We've got a lot of questions here about the financial part. You'd want to know that if you're probably going to put that out to the public. Do you think this is a great idea?
Right.
In those pieces. So it's just absolutely go in any direction that the board wants to go in, but it just, you've done some awesome work here, pulling out these major themes, because what we're trying to ground down to are, what are those root elements in the community, with the staff, that are important to this district that should influence any decisions you're going to be making. And have those on, and have you informed about those, and have them on the top of your thought process when you make any decision, including nothing.
I was thinking, if you're gonna survey, one of the questions I think you should have is a question that essentially says, is operating pre-K 6 schools in each of your community a core value or something? That to me will give you a flavor in your communities around what is the actual desire to continue to talk about restructuring or not.
Have to be careful in the phrasing of that, because.
Yeah, no, that's just Jamie spitballing it, but I think somehow you've got to get a sense of, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, the gray area and the hard part there in how it's phrased, right, is it, if the ultimate goal is making sure our kids and future kids have the best platform they have for education and for socialization and all of these sort of things, then one needs to ask the question of what's the best way in the community's eyes to accomplish that, right? And
Well, I think the
it's
stakeholder identification will be key to that possibly too, and I think we could ask them to identify themselves as guardian, because I started, I don't know about you,
They
but
would,
when we,
100%, you'd log in as parent, you'd log in as teacher, you'd log in as administrator, or just community member. And it's
And I think-
anonymous.
Yes, but I think you should also identify it as which community, whether it's Stockbridge, Rochester, or others,
Hancock.
Hancock, Granville.
We could do that based on once we know who you're sending this.
We haven't mentioned it, but you started to talk about it, Chris, and that's the timing, the sequencing of the board figuring out the pros and cons of some of the things that Jesse talked about, digging deep, broad, so that we know and are informed about that question. And the reason that's so important is we don't know it right now. How do we expect the public to know it? So we asked the public, why not? And you fill in the blank. How do you expect the public, because we're really, this is a deep down, we're talking about logistics, we're talking about a strategy to stay alive and be viable as a local rural school. But to ask the public these questions that we don't have the answers to right now, I think is, I'll get the results and I'll say, how meaningful are those results? Because do they know what they're saying or what they're supporting? And so they might go down to the coffee shop and ask the person behind the counter. But I think if we're going to do a community survey, it's got to be meaningful. And one way to make it meaningful is for the board to be informed. And then the board can inform the community. And then the community can decide based on the pros and cons where they'd like to go. It might take us longer, but I think the results would be far more meaningful, for at least for me, because they're allowed to say, oh, I hadn't thought about the positive, I hadn't thought about that negative. Because a lot of things, if you read the survey, the question is, well, how's it going to help keeping the school? How much is it going to cost? What does it mean for ACT logistics? We're going with the ACT. All those questions. And so how do you answer those questions? It's pretty tricky, especially when you want to have 3 or 4 and you want to be able to do this thing quickly, and I agree. But I just suggested the board, and Jamie, you can think about the sequencing, so that if we're going to do a survey, it's got to be meaningful.
Well,
And we really need to know where we're going ourselves.
Well, the restructuring idea is coming from what? From the idea that we want to increase academics, that we want to increase opportunities, that we need to increase our staff support. It's like the restructuring is the result of what? Because the state is making us have minimum class sizes.
Yeah, I also have to ask, the question, it may actually end up being, and it has come up here several times, is if you had a primary school and an intermediate school, you have the support of primary teachers together and you have the support of intermediate teachers together. It keeps both schools open, but it might not be what people want. So that has come up several times. Maybe we should make one school a primary, or a K-2 or K-3, and the other one a 4 to 6 or a 3 to 6. And, just because of the curriculum and what else, it could end up being cheaper in some
and the
ways.
restructuring, your community engagement task force
Brought
dug
that
into
up.
that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's part of why we're here,
Yeah.
right? Is like these conversations were had, and
Right,
there's
so that has to be
recommendations
part of
about
like, if, you know,
exploring this conversation. That's part of why we're here.
Right.
yeah, in the restructuring question, there should, you know, be an option of keep a K to 6 in both schools, let go of 6, make one school primary, one an intermediate school, you know, like those things should be the options.
You know, but again, I'm just kind of wondering, the idea we're talking about is a change, it's a goal.
It's a goal.
Why are we trying to get to this goal? What are we trying to do? Which goes back to some of this stuff, and from these prompts earlier of academics, increased academics. So how can we support that? Restructuring might be the option. I hear also jumping right to restructuring before we identify, well, these are the problems, and we feel that we can fix them by changing some things, and some of those things could be.
Make a
Yes.
suggestion? I think
Please.
it's a mistake not to ask, what does restructuring look like? I heard loud and clear from that community survey, as someone who was there day in, day out for that meeting, that this was unclear to people and there were a lot of ideas thrown around. So I think whether we offer choices for people to pick or we keep it open-ended. And then I think the next question is something along the lines of, what sort of information do you need to know to make a better decision?
Right.
Right, and I think short and sweet and to the point, I think all these things are important, but I don't want it to get too long either. So just an idea, because I hear both sides of it, but I also hear like, if I'm a parent and my kiddo, like thinking about the kiddos I greet at the door every day, like this has immediate impact. Act 73 has immediate impact on my kid, and I want to be in the driver's seat, I don't want to be reactive.
Right.
So like, that would be, feel free to tweak and say you're crazy when you know way, but like that would be a suggestion I would have.
So do you think number 3 should be an open-ended question, or should it give options?
I think it could go either way.
Again, I've heard the same options, was to have primary, sorry about that.
Because it seems to come up already in several.
Right, I think we could bullet.
Right, dropping the 6th grade was something I read more than once. The idea of single graded classrooms, I read more than once.
Which
And
could
then
happen if you switch
half and half,
things.
having a primary and then a, so if you were able to just get a sense of where the people feel. Like I can live with this concept. 70% of the respondents said, yep, definitely could live with a lower elementary and then the 2nd level. That gives you the target to begin to do what? Maybe start the process of, all right, what would that look like?
Right.
What's the financial benefit? Now go back to everything you hear. How does it, and this is what, all of your work has to come back to a very simple, that first bullet of your goals. Academic, social and emotional, opportunities for the kids. So when you ask, I'm gonna write this off, I'll come up with a couple of little blurbs. That's the rationale. Why are we doing this work? Because it's what's right for kids. And by saying what's right for kids, you can't be right for kids if you're not right for staff.
I also think it's forward thinking for you as a district board.
Yes.
The state is going to ramp down on finances more and more. They've done it through the excess spending threshold, but this is just phase 1 of them continue to engage in how they're going to ratchet down financially. The more data and information you have will allow you to strategically plan of how you're going to combat that and or inform your decision making when you're in a study committee, studying with other partners over the next 18 months. All right, so yes, we're fine with the excess spending threshold. If somehow the legislature during a check back gets themselves oriented to a foundation formula, and depending on where that base is, that's a whole different ballgame. We kick that can down the road, right? Like all your work, we were able to kick, that's a check back. A future legislature actually has to act on that. But I think having information to strategically plan how you are viable doesn't let you get into a situation like in Washington Central where I live currently, where the board just unilaterally, because financially they had to, just moved kids from one school to another school. And they just gave parents notice 3 weeks ago. Right? And so I think that's also how you need to frame this thinking, right? Like, It's trying to address needs. Clearly, there's some needs that have been put out, right? It's also saying, like, as a future district, like strategically planning, what is it that the community is indicating that they would feel okay about?
So,
Because I think one of the concerns your teachers and families are saying is continue to operate the way we are. We've been able to do it, but we've been able to do it because over time, we have been ratcheting down on FTEs, right? We haven't added any FTEs the last 5 years. We have decreased FTEs, including a principal. There was 2 principals when I arrived. There's 1 principal now, right? So I think that is part of why we also need to frame why we're engaging in this.
so this is a question for both of you, and this might be a cart before the horse scenario. But if we get a community engagement, it comes back and it embraces some sort of restructuring, be it any of these items,
Yeah.
right? And let's suggest it moves to a single grade format. Are our existing teachers and staff, can they be realigned for that? Or are we going to lose staff? Like, could our pre-K K person or our K1, can they be split up? And do we have a person who's going to be viable for K, and do we have a person who's viable for 1? And for each of those grades, since we're currently doubled up on combined classes, right? Or are we concerned about losing those people, or can they be reassigned to single grades, in your opinion?
I think there's always a chance of losing just because depending on how we go to that, right? Like,
Yeah.
it may change some people's commutes. I just can't speak for that. 'Cause-
Sure.
But, and that's where I think the fear comes. I think in terms of like, would we have to reduce a lot of people? Not as many as
Right.
you would think, because you're right, we have so many like duplicate grade levels right now.
Right. So we'd be able to, in theory, if they were comfortable doing it, a 3-4 teacher, one could choose 3 and one could choose 4.
Exactly.
Right? And, okay.
In First Branch where we did this, right, we merged 2 K-8s into an upper and lower school. What we did is we met with teachers and had them strategically identify where they thought their strengths were, and then we assigned them accordingly.
And it could also be, this is the 3rd grader teacher, this is the 4th grade teacher, they're responsible for the math and the language arts in those areas, and then together they do social studies and science.
Sure.
So they still have that larger community to work together with.
And I'm not suggesting that we're moving in the direction.
No, I agree. Yeah,
I'm simply
it's a
asking if we would be in a scenario where we need to replace or change staff, that's all.
I would just come back to having the board cement and put a pin in what the future looks like will better allow us to train and provide like common education, not only to teachers but families, around the benefits, as an example, of multi-age. If you decided you were going to continue to operate in multi-age, it would then allow us to have that vision and plan moving forward.
Right.
Because that Stockbridge, out of necessity, was always multi-aged. But in Rochester, your enrollment has decreased. We went from some single grade classes to multi-age. And we're down about 20 kids in this building since I've arrived. So, and that's been part of why we've reduced in force. So that is where it's a new vision for your district if you're deciding, like, multi-age is where we're gonna go because we believe we can do it and do it really well, and it provides a viable K-6 operation in each building, and it allows us to comply with minimum class sizes, right? Like but I think that's part of what we need to dig into. Like that's the strategic planning piece to this aspect.
And you could also have, single grade doesn't mean one teacher has to teach one grade. You can have that's cohort. The single grade is going from teacher to teacher. So they can go to their math, you can have them go to a math teacher, go to a science teacher, go to a social studies teacher. And in this case, you could also have like a win time where, kids need some time, more time with the math teacher can spend an extra period with that, or kids, and that could be a mixed group. Or so that way they can get extra support.
Sure.
Or if they're accelerated. Because right now, there's nothing for those accelerated kids really set up.
A couple things. One is, we need to have, we need to figure out how we're going to communicate what we're doing. Because the word's going to get out there, and the word's going to threaten whoever feels that what we're considering is going to have a negative impact on what, directly or indirectly. And so those rumors can really stack up in a hurry, and then you've got that whole network that could result in people making their opinions not based on information, but based on hearsay. And the second thing, our school and SU is going to have to help us communicate effectively with the teachers, because they're directly involved on that. And if I was a teacher, I would, did you hear that? My God. So we've got some homework to do besides everything else we're doing, just to make sure that the people we serve and the people that deliver the goods are not unnecessarily alarmed.
Right.
That would be the worst thing.
That would be the
Right now,
worst
we've
thing.
got extremely high, I think, morale on this board, in the community, and in our schools. And the last thing I would like us to do, and one thing we got to consider is our proposed change, what are the risks of that? Do those risks outweigh what we want to do, what we think we want to do on that? And we're all going to individually try to figure that thing out.
But we don't know
It's
what
not
we
an
want to
easy
do.
task, but I'll tell you, schools, people care about schools. We just had a governor that figured that out, and in the legislature, it took a long time for them to finally figure out that rural schools with local control make a difference. I don't have an answer for that, but I just think that's something we need to be aware of as a board.
Yeah, and I think, Amy, to your point for the community engagement meeting is making sure that there's not an agenda in this, right? It's a fact-finding mission right now, right? And then we can pose viable options, et cetera. So, I mean, I think whatever outreach, Bill, to your point, that goes out, we need to make sure that the community understands that there's not an agenda, right? And that this is a way to define potential options or not going forward.
So to kind of pull it all together, we started with a bunch. We have 3 prompts that are focusing in around student achievement, staff engagement, communication. Look at the 3 questions as a preliminary fact finding. How would you, nobody can say you didn't read the work. They want to be communicated with, you're asking. How could we better communicate with you? You've looked through all this too. Community says supports, staff said, all right, so what are the supports we're talking about? What kind of supports? Last one. What's this whole idea about restructuring, right? What is this? And I read it with you. Pre-K, on both 6, pre-K 5, and then split. You've done phenomenal work with 400 pounds of paper and comments and everything else. Because if this survey comes back and people respond, you're gonna know what they're thinking about restructuring. And maybe one is so like not appealing to everybody, you do this. We're gonna forget this one. Because why would I try to get 70%? I'm just exit, I'm not saying.
No,
Why would I
I'm
try to
agreeing.
get 70% of respondents that don't want to do this? Why would I want to try to drag them with me? However, these other 2 popped up high. Now we've got a bench. We can start to look at this. Supports start to come up. Aligned curriculum. More access to nurses, counseling, pop up. All right, so then now you're looking at, it's more district supports. And you know what you get from this? They want scan code, they love the scan, they want to see messaging here, then I'm gonna do the easy part. I'm gonna give this all back to you, and then there's your bullet points. There's your, can I flip back? I know it's running late. Where did I put my clicker? There it is. I can do this without screwing it up, which is never good with me in technology, right? See, I went back too far. There it is. There's your board goals. So you really can't, if this is, like, people are like, these are the supports we need, then you tie back into this. If you find out that, you know, people love this, they like it here, but you know what, we're hearing, we love single graded classrooms. Now you start to plan, you gotta do the research, finances, who's in, good question, staff, who's certified, can they jump back and forth? It's all there. And the restructuring falls, well, you're gonna know how they wanna be communicated with, but then when you talk about restructuring, it's gonna be about academic, social, emotional, it's gonna be about planning, and it's going to be how do we know how they wanna hear this, how we can communicate moving forward. You've done great work tonight.
The other thing is if we lose 6, we'd probably lose a teacher, right? Or would they be moved?
We'd have to look at
You'd
that.
have to look at that, so what if
More
there's...
When I
information.
say I have really not thought of it,
Yeah.
I
Right.
really have not.
Right.
Right.
I don't
Everything
want
would-
anyone to have that fear.
Every option we would have to really look at, the what, the who's, what's, and whys.
Staffing, financial, and then...
And
you
how does
talk-
it address our actual need?
Right. And your capital planning, and all of it goes into it. But you need a direction, that's why like the arrows all coming into that. You need something to aim for, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I would just say from the board,
Mhm.
I'm not wasting energy and capacity on any of this until you direct me what you need me to do.
Yeah. Good.
So that's what, I mean, you need to say, I want to know what 6th grade looks like X.
Right.
Right? Like, you've thrown out some questions tonight, but until you say, I want a presentation on X, I mean, I
We need
think
to
you'll
flush
know.
that out more.
Yeah,
Before
like,
we, because we don't want to ask and tax our staff.
We're
with
not, I'm
checking
just,
out every single
when you
option.
give me directives around what you actually want me to propose to you, then we'll come with a full presentation.
Yeah.
When do y'all expect the survey to go out?
I think it's on your
I was hoping like July, August.
Yeah.
And so that we would have information back for our August meeting?
No, because the August meeting
And the
is,
September meeting?
September
Okay.
is when we said we would bring it back and unpack that data. And we've got another community forum too in August.
right, so
So
the-
ideally, those surveys would be done, and that we could also engage the community
Right.
in those questions beyond the survey.
So our next meeting is the community forum in August, or?
no, that's the next part of this engagement, restructuring, this.
We have
that
a
we're doing,
wagon,
But not as our regular, we have regular board meetings in between.
we have a wagon wheel next week.
Next
Yeah.
Tuesday up.
Question for the board.
Yes.
If the survey goes out, we get those answers back, does everyone have the capacity to meet in between board meetings? Or how does that work logistically if we wanted to do that?
We have to warn when we meet. Right.
Right, to go over before the August meeting? I mean,
Yeah, because I just have the feeling like there's another layer of conversation to have here amongst the board in regards to once we get the survey data, that would be helpful for us to come to some sort of multi-step things for us to consider that we're then discussing at the September meeting with the public. But if we haven't discussed that ourselves, it just seems to me that we're bringing up an open conversations of things to consider in a open public forum that we haven't put in hierarchy of what items we want to present to Jamie, for example, to consider.
and I hear that, except for I feel that I feel that the community needs another opportunity to just get it all out.
In September.
No, in August.
Oh, no, understood. I'm saying between August
August
when
and
we
September.
have. Between August and
Okay.
September, when we have the survey information back.
Well, it's another another forum, oh,
Yeah.
so we have 2 forums, one on August 4th, one September 1st, and then a meeting on the 15th.
Right.
Another board retreat to kind of talk about.
I mean, I'm begging the question, if it seemed prudent to do so, what the process would be then.
You guys could decide, and you can plan those via email too, you don't break any open meeting laws. So you could request a meeting between August 4th and the September meeting.
So Saturday, the 15th, we have a meeting?
And you'll be scheduled for a regular board meeting in
September.
August too.
That's another board retreat to synthesize all the information gained from the survey and from the next 2 open community forums. And you're kind of asking them, should we push the time frame up a little bit and have that a little earlier so that then we can synthesize it more and actually ask the
Yeah, because
Jamie for some more concrete.
Yeah, because I think to Bill's point, but also to Jamie's point, is that when we get the information back and we have a few different options that the community have really weighed in on, then we might want to have a deeper understanding of defining what questions to ask of Jamie, right? And say, here's some budgetary items that we need to know, and what would be the impact of X, right? And then we would have some potential food and data, depending on bandwidth and those results coming back, of people asking us potentially in that September meeting that we're on, like, have you considered what the impacts of people? Actually, we've asked the district about what some of these cost impacts would be. So I'm just, and I'm not suggesting that we do, I'm just questioning what the logistics are, if it seemed prudent to do so.
Well, between our next September 15th retreat to synthesize information, and then the following meeting is the end of October, so there is quite a time frame there.
So we're not having our regular meetings like the first
Yes, we're
month?
still having our regular
Okay.
meetings.
So we
On
could
top
have,
of these.
so we could have some opportunity to talk amongst ourselves about this in those meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to meeting earlier and providing the SU with some guidance of some options we want to, but I want to make sure the community has enough time to get as much of their information to us and feedback from the survey and from these forums that we can then take everything that they've put out there and synthesize it down and say, you know, well, this is where we see the community feeling, maybe we should ask for some additional information on X, Y, and Z.
Just completely aligned with what I was thinking, thanks.
Okay. So are we finished with the discussion?
I would say
Okay,
we have
we're-
discussed it.
Yeah, so if we're finished with the board discussion, we did have a public comment.
We got comments, yeah. Sorry. How do you intend to pull, like, do you have a non-parent mailing list? Like, how will you get this to the community?
So, well, you didn't be here to help answer these questions.
Oh, these are,
It's-
oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was.
I mean,
to
are you
board.
just creating the survey, or are you helping us disseminate the survey out?
No, you would disseminate.
Okay.
Yeah, we just created and give it over.
Yeah, I think you should say, just in case.
Oh, no, I was just gonna return this to the
Okay.
platform I stood out of. I don't want, that's
So
what
I
was
don't
doing.
know, I'd look to the administration for, I guess we could send out the survey via,
We'll
resident,
We'll QR code it again like we did last time.
You'll get it from us in a link.
I think we should be learning from the last time, right? Like, and the lack of engagement from that survey and finding other ways to do it and finding other avenues. I think what you'll find is that the same people who are gonna show up to this community engagement meeting.
Yeah, I gotta say
Are
people.
gonna be the same people who are filling out the survey. We're gonna be exhausted by having to have the same conversation over and over again that we've been having since last year when we had the other survey talking about restructuring. And I think people are just gonna get tired of having that conversation without clear direction and having an understanding of what you're trying to do. Like, it's year 2 now of a restructuring conversation with still no direction on what restructuring is. And people are just like, where's the leadership for this conversation, and how do I even weigh in on any of this? Because it's like survey exhaustion, it's conversation.
How did you guys send out the survey then?
We did a mailer, an every door direct mailer to
Every
every single
door?
person. Yeah, we did QR codes at the budget meeting. We did, Lindy sent it out to all parents through, an email from the school. Yeah, from
Front
Alma.
porch forum.
There were copies left in the town office. Within the survey, we asked people, how do you like to get your communication from people? How do you like information being shared? All of that was in there and exists in that survey already, but,
Can there be a link on the website?
Absolutely.
it's just like, it feels like there's no teeth to this conversation. Of course we want our kids, even if our kids are at the best school in the world, we would still want our kid to do better academically, we would still want them to be challenged even more, we would still want them to have more opportunity. Those are all things that, of course, exist. Of course you want their teachers to feel well-resourced and that they have the support of everybody involved, but that's all so nebulous and there's no actual teeth to it. What does it mean for a K-1 teacher? Does she need somebody to be in the classroom to help do the transition with foods? And like those are the things that you actually wanna know that are gonna be actually impactful for your teachers. Like those are the things that you're missing in these conversations that are so big and broad and wide that I think are gonna have the bulk of the support. That's the support piece of it. But until you're like, you see it and you're in the classroom and you're like, oh, I need somebody to watch the kids so I can use the bathroom, like, you don't know, and so I just think as parents who are involved and who try to show up and do it, it's like the same thing.
And,
continues.
I mean, we have a group text of some PTO members, and they're like, is there a meeting tonight? And they try to go to the website, and they get lost in all the links, and they don't know if it's in Rochester or Stockbridge, is it at 5:30 or 6:30? And they're trying to find that information. So I think you guys are on the right path of like, you need to hand it to them on a silver platter. I love the idea of the pre-meeting on Front Porch Forum. Like, hey, there's a meeting on Tuesday at 5:30 at this location. Here's the Zoom link, click here, like, kind of idiot-proof it, as horrible as that term is. But like, we are trying to find out, and it's challenging for people that want to be involved, much less the people that are like in the wings, kind of. I also had the idea, can you create a non-parent robocall list? Somehow, like, click here if you want to sign up. Everyone has a cell phone. Can you send a text of like, here's the QR thing, but you need to curate that mailing list. And as a PTO, we're trying to curate a mailing list as well as people attend our events of like, hey, do you want to come to Paint and Sip? I emailed some of you to be like, you came last time, do you want to come again? So we have the same struggle, I would say. And then the other conversation that I just talked to a hockey mom friend whose children attend First Branch, and I did want to throw out, could we consider a K-4 school and a 5-8 school? I don't know if that's something that I would be interested to learn. I feel like the 6th grade is this limbo, and to make it more of a middle school, you might get people from, Pittsfield, we're Pittsfield, they have to go to what, so I just thought that was another branch to look at, so.
Yeah,
No,
thank you.
yeah.
I mean, I'll voice in a bit on the communication part. I mean, that was apparent at our community engagement evening in Stockbridge with the people who I sat with and sort of talking about community. And Lindsay and I are very involved in the school, right, on various different capacities. And so we feel that sense of community, right, and with the other families and the school and whatnot, and what the platform is providing, right? And so I said that, and a woman across from me said, well, I don't feel that at all, because I don't have any engagement with the school, right? And this goes back to do we have to organize everyone to do everything, or can they do it themselves, right? So it would be great if you came to the school and read a book to the kids, even as a non-parent, right? It'd be great if you came and participated in planting,
After school,
whatever it is.
You know how to bake.
So I think one of the challenges in the outreach, which I completely agree is paramount, is finding the people who are actionable on this versus just speaking about it, okay? Because those people who sat at the table with me could easily reach out to the school and say, hey, I'd love to come help with lunch, or I'd love to come help do X, Y, Z. do we, as the board and the school, have to be pining these people to be involved, right?
Right.
There needs to be some ownership. And
Right.
so,
I
you know,
agree.
part of it in finding out who to contact and who to have engage, as we know, it's very often the same people. But I guess if we reached a couple dozen of those people, like a couple of people who sat at the table with me, and they actually gave a response, then that would be beneficial, right? But
Well, and also what other community things are happening, like, we also had the same idea, like, can we hand out a flyer to the firemen? Here's what's happening in the school. Can we hand out a flyer to, there's a housing committee in Rochester, here's what's happening at the school. Can we get this information to the meeting house, there's a whole, you know, historical committee, you know, and so like, if, yes, that takes more work, we've sent, you know, we've built the flyers, we've sent the emails, and, yeah, it's a, you feel like you're beating your head against the wall.
But there's also an opportunity because we are like 2 active members from the PTO, most active members from the PTO,
Right.
sitting here. And so we've realized and recognized that that is true. Like there are multiple organizations doing multiple things, and there have to be channels of communication with those organizations to kind of loop it all together. Because it's not just you guys, the select board should be involved in these conversations. They're doing a municipal budget that also affects people's taxes. Like there's so many layers to this that it's hard because it feels so spread out, because there are so few people volunteering to do those things, that there needs to be one linchpin. And so there has to be like, you know, the Edwina Payne, like we went to, Jesse's wife and I went to the trustees of public funds meeting last week, just to sit down and talk to them about community engagement, because they reached out after the last conversation about ways to do it. And so we're working on a whole platform there, but like, that should be.
Well, they're wanting to give money to
Money
stop
and financial
repairing,
support,
and
yeah.
I didn't even know about it until last year,
Yeah.
and now my kid's 10, you know, and so like, they have their own challenges, I think.
But I think collectively, there should be bigger conversations happening amongst everybody, because, or at least a flag on the field to everybody, because everyone's trying to do the same thing, right? We're all trying to exist in this small town and give the best opportunity to everybody that's here. So it's just a matter of like funneling that energy towards one thing and figuring out a way to do it. But I think my first point was just, I think you're absolutely right about the intentionality of this survey, because people are out on it.
I do think, and I'm just gonna speak as someone who's over 60, that if I received a QR code, I would immediately like block it, because
Yeah.
we're told over and over again, don't do this, because it's gonna be a scam. So I think having a face like at a community forum that said, here's the QR code, you're seeing where it's coming from, is really important. You know, I got a text yesterday that said that someone took $500 out of my Apple account. It looked real. And luckily, I went to Apple separately and asked about it, and they were like, it's phishing, get rid of it.
But like the hub could do its senior tech class, and that could be the thing that they work on, is figuring out how to use QR code and filling out the survey. Like there's,
Yeah.
you know, there's like ways
Yeah.
that we can all.
But there has to be a face with it, I
Totally.
think. Especially in this town is what, 70% people over 60, you know?
Right. Excellent.
And they
Okay.
care about the school, they really do care about the school.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your comments. And can we adjourn before we have dinner? Or do we need to stay live before?
You can adjourn.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.